Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pre-Education. Today we will be going through a non-fiction text with 6 multiple choice reading comprehension questions in order to prepare for the upcoming selective examination. So, let's get straight into it. The first part of any passage is the title. Unfortunately, we don't have a title today and the title just says passage, so there is no additional information that we can gain from this. Now, a common technique that works for many students when going through a reading comprehension passage or doing a reading comprehension text is to read the questions before they read the passage. Now, this technique works for many as while they are reading the passage, they actually understand what they need to look for, and that's why they can underline the key points so that when they're answering the questions, they can just go back to what they've underlined and answer the correct answer choice in minimal time. So let's work with that strategy. For question 1, we need to determine the primary purpose of this passage. For question 2, we needed to determine the primary function of the persona. For question 3, we need to understand what the midlife crisis is characterized by. For question 4, we need to understand the relationship between the persona and individuation. For question 5, we need to understand what the primary benefit of midlife is. And for question 6, we need to determine the best title for this passage. So, let's get straight into the passage now. Carl Jung, a renowned 20th century psychologist, posited a radical view of aging, asserting that true life begins not in youth, but around the age of 40. He likened the earlier decades to a period of research, a time for gathering experiences, building identities, and navigating the social landscape. This period, while crucial for growth, often involves a focus on external validation and societal expectations, leading individuals to construct a persona, a curated self-image designed to fit in and succeed. So now this first passage is basically talking about Carl Jung's theory in which true life begins not in youth but actually around the age of 40. Next paragraph. However, Jung argued that this persona is merely a mask, a superficial representation of the true self. By midlife, the cracks in this persona begin to emerge. The pressures of career advancement, familial obligations, and social conformity lose their grip, giving rise to a period of introspection and questioning. This period, often mislabeled as a midlife crisis, is in fact an opportunity for individuation, a process of integrating all aspects of the self, including the shadow, the darker, more repressed aspects of one's personality. Now, this paragraph is mainly just talking about what the midlife crisis actually is and how midlife has actually been mislabeled and is actually an opportunity to unveil the mask that many have had before the age of 40. Next paragraph. This inward journey is not without its challenges. It may involve confronting deeply held fears, reevaluating life choices, and experiencing periods of uncertainty. Yet, it also presents a unique opportunity for growth and self-actualization. As individuals move beyond the constraint of societal expectations, they begin to prioritize authenticity, meaning, and inner fulfillment. This paragraph is mainly just talking about the characteristics of a midlife crisis and the process of self-discovery that includes many characteristics such as confronting deeply held fears, reevaluating life choices, and experiencing periods of uncertainty. Next paragraph. This shift is supported by neurological changes that occur with age, leading to increased emotional regulation and a greater capacity for introspection. While the journey towards individuation may involve discomfort and upheaval, it ultimately leads to a deeper sense of self-awareness, purpose, and life satisfaction. Jung's perspective offers a powerful counter-narrative to the prevailing cultural narrative of aging, encouraging individuals to embrace this period as a time of profound growth and personal transformation. This paragraph is mainly just a conclusion and summarizes what the whole passage was talking about and also just delves a little deeper into what Jung's theory actually was. Now we'll get straight into the questions. Question 1. The author's primary purpose in this passage is to A. Criticize the societal pressures that contribute to midlife crises. While this passage does talk about societal pressures and midlife crises, it does not actually show the relationship between two, and it does not directly state that societal pressures actually contribute to midlife crises. This passage also debunks the theory of midlife crises and says that they aren't actually a time of losing identity, but actually creating a new one, which is why A is not the correct answer choice. B. Advocate for a reevaluation of traditional views on aging. Yes, this passage does talk about the reevaluation of traditional views on aging, and it also does advocate for it, which is why B is a possible answer choice. Now, a common silly mistake that many students make in their exams is that they end up marking the first answer choice that they think is correct, and then they don't read the rest of the answer choices. Trust me, I've done this before, and it's absolutely horrible, because this is one of the worst mistakes that you can make. Even though there is a correct answer choice, for example, B is the most correct answer choice between A and B, there may be an even better answer choice between C and D, which is why you can't just leave the answer as B. Let's continue and go to the next option. C. Explain the psychological theories of Carl Jung. While this passage does talk about the psychological theories of Carl Jung, it's not actually the main point. Rather, the main point is talking about the uncertainty and the characteristics of a midlife crisis and debunking that, thinking that at the age of 40, rather than losing your identity because of financial or familial struggles, you can actually create a new one, which is why C is not the correct answer either. D. Provide practical advice for navigating the challenges of midlife. This passage does not discuss any practical advice for any challenges of midlife, which is why D is not the correct answer either, and B is our most correct answer. Question 2. According to Jung, the primary function of the persona is to. Now, because we actually underlined this question before we read the passage, as I was going through the passage, I ended up underlining any key points where they talked about the persona. So one of the points I underlined was this sentence here. Let's start from the start of the sentence. This period, while crucial for growth, often involves a focus on external validation and societal expectations, leading to individuals to construct a persona, a curated self-image designed to fit in and succeed. Here it says that the persona is a curated self-image designed to succeed. Let's see if we have anything similar to this in the answer choices. The definition of a persona that was given in the passage, a curated self-image designed to succeed, is actually the opposite of expressing one's true authentic self, which is why A cannot be the right answer. B. Facilitate social interaction and acceptance. Yes, the definition of a persona does say that the persona was designed to fit in and succeed, which is why, again, B can be a possible answer choice. The passage states that the persona is the outward identity that we present to the world, and it has been influenced by societal expectations and designed to fit in and succeed in the eyes of others, which is why B is a very possible answer choice. C. Achieve personal and professional success. While this does talk about achieving success, it does not talk about achieving personal success or achieving professional success, and that is not the actual primary function of the persona, which is why C is not the correct answer choice either. D. Integrate the conscious and unconscious mind. Now, nowhere in this passage has the unconscious and conscious mind been talked about, which is why D cannot be the correct answer choice and B is our most viable answer choice. Let's go on to our next question. 3. The passage suggests that the midlife crisis is often characterized by. Now again, because we read the questions before the passage, I underlined where I found ideas of the midlife crisis. The midlife crisis was mainly talked about in this paragraph, where it says, by midlife, the cracks in this persona begin to emerge. The pressures of career advancement, familial obligations, and social conformity lose their grip, giving rise to a period of introspection and questioning. This period, often mislabeled as a midlife crisis, is in fact an opportunity for individuation, a process of integrating all aspects of the self, including the shadow, the darker, more repressed aspects of one's personality. Now, let's go through the answer choices. A sudden and unexpected decline in mental health. No, there is no point in this passage where it talks about the mental health of one person. It does talk about the challenges within a midlife crisis and the characteristics of self-discovery, but it does not actually talk about mental health, which is why A is not the correct answer choice. B, a period of intense anxiety and despair. Again, this passage does not ever mention one going through intense anxiety and despair, which is why B is not the correct answer choice either. C, a necessary process of self-discovery and transformation. C is in fact a very viable answer choice because it talks about the midlife crisis being a process of self-discovery and a process of transformation, which has been mentioned here, where it talks about it gives rise to a period of introspection and questioning, and it has been mislabeled as a midlife crisis. Again, in the introduction, it also talks about how it navigates the social landscape. So this gives us clear evidence why C can be a possible answer choice. D, a desperate attempt to cling to the past. Again, D is very incorrect, as this passage does not talk about clinging to the past at all, which is why D is wrong, and C is our best answer. Question number 4. Which of the following best describes the relationship between the persona and individuation as presented in the passage? So again, because we read the questions before reading the passage, I underlined where I saw persona and individuation, which was in this paragraph again. So here it said that by midlife, the cracks in this persona begin to emerge. The pressures of career advancement, familial obligations, and social conformity lose their grip, giving rise to a period of introspection and questioning. This period, often mislabeled as midlife crisis, is in fact an opportunity for individuation, a process of integrating all aspects of the self, including the shadow, the darker, more repressed aspects of one's personality. So, let's have a look at our answer choices. A, they are mutually exclusive topics. So actually, they are not mutually exclusive topics. The biggest hint for this is that they talk about both the persona and individuation within the same paragraph. Normally, when authors write, they don't put opposite topics in one paragraph. So if you don't understand the question, this is a quick tip for you to mark the best answer choice, which is why A is not the correct answer choice. B, individuation involves transcending the limitations of the persona. B is in fact a very viable answer choice. It basically just means that individuation is an opportunity to ignore the mask of the persona and transcend it, go above it, and create a new self-identity, which is what this passage is saying. It is talking about how one can integrate all aspects of the self, including the shadow and the darker aspects of one's personality, rather than just creating a perfect facade for social expectations, which is why B is a very viable answer choice. Let's continue on to our next answer choice, C. The persona is a necessary precursor to individuation. While this paragraph does talk about the persona being a step before individuation for societal expectations, it does not talk about it being a necessary precursor, which is why C is not the correct answer. D. Individuation is achieved by strengthening and refining the persona. Now, D is absolutely incorrect, as the passage states that individuation is accepting the persona and adding more to it, adding the darker aspects of it, and it transcends the persona. It does not refine the persona or strengthen it, which is why our most correct answer choice is B. Question 5. The passage suggests that the primary benefit of midlife is A. Achieving financial security and social status. While this passage does talk about achieving financial security and social status in midlife, it's not actually the primary benefit of midlife, which is why A is not the correct answer. B. Finding external validation and recognition. Now, A and B are not correct because rather than being the primary benefit of midlife, they sound more like the primary benefit of the persona. Personas allow one to achieve financial security and social status. They also allow one to achieve external validation and recognition. So A and B are actually the opposite of what the question is asking us, which is why they are incorrect. C. Living a life that is authentic and meaningful. Now, C is a very viable answer choice because this passage does talk about the midlife being a time where true life begins not in youth, but actually around the age of 40. It also talks about how in midlife, the cracks in a persona begin to emerge and one's personality actually emerges. And then here they also talk about within the midlife crisis, as individuals move beyond the constraints of societal expectations, they begin to prioritize authenticity, meaning, and inner fulfillment. Now, this actually has two of the keywords in our answer choice, where it says authenticity, which is authentic, and meaning, which is meaningful, which is why C is an perfect answer choice. D. Conforming to societal expectations and norms. Again, D cannot be the correct answer choice, as similar to A and B, it is actually talking about the primary benefit of a persona, where it talks about conforming to social expectations and norms, which is why C is our most correct answer choice. Our last question is actually one of the hardest questions that you will get in a selective examination. So in questions where they ask us to find the title, these questions are extremely hard to answer, as you need to determine every single theme and every single key point that has been stated in the passage. If you miss even one theme or key point, you risk getting this question incorrect. So let's break this question down and go through it option by option. Which of the following titles best reflects the main idea of the passage? Now, the keyword here is main idea. Many students often in this situation just hit the first possible answer choice, as it reflects on one of the themes, not all of the themes combined. And you should never do this. You should think about the passage as a whole and then mark the most correct answer choice. So, let's go through option A. The midlife crisis, a myth debunked. Now, A is a possible answer choice because it talks about the midlife crisis and it talks about how it is a myth debunked. So we will mark this and move ahead for now. B. The illusion of youth, finding fulfillment later in life. While our passage does talk about finding fulfillment later in life, it does not actually talk about the illusion of youth. While it does talk about how many people believe that true life begins in youth, but it doesn't actually, and it begins around the age of 40, it's not actually the key theme of the passage. While the passage talks about how a midlife around the age of 40 is where one can construct their own self-identity, it does not talk about the illusion of youth, which is why B is not the correct answer choice. C. The art of aging, embracing growth and transformation. Now, C may be a correct answer choice as it talks about aging and embracing growth and transformation within the midlife, which is why we will mark this and move ahead for now. D. The search for self, Jung's perspective on midlife. Now, D talks about all of the key themes that have been discussed in this passage. It talks about the search for self-discovery, which has been said in this inward journey, and it also talks about Jung, who was the actual writer and creator of this theory. So it is pivotal that we have his name in the title because it gives credit to the author or creator. It also talks about his perspective on midlife. So it clearly states that this whole passage was not a fact, but really his theory, really his opinion on what the midlife actually is, which is why, again, D is a possible answer choice. So we will mark this. As you can see, if we would have just marked A and moved on, going to our next passage within the exam, we would have gotten this question wrong, as there are 3 possible answer choices that all make sense. So now the hardest part of doing this question is determining what answer choice will be the best. A. The midlife crisis, a myth debunked. A does not seem like the best answer choice as it talks about a myth, and nowhere in this passage does it actually clearly state that the midlife crisis is a myth, which is why we will cross out option A for now. C. The art of aging, embracing growth and transformation. While this passage does talk about embracing growth and transformation, which is the second part of this title, it does not actually talk about the art of aging. It does not explore aging as an art, but it really just talks about what happens within the midlife crisis, which is why C is not the best answer choice either. D. The search for self, Jung's perspective on midlife. Now, D seems like the best answer choice as it talks about self-discovery. If you guys did not know this while we were going through this passage, an inward journey actually means a journey of self-discovery, which is what an inward journey means. It clearly states here. And in option D, it talks about the search for self, which again just means a inward journey. So the first part of this title makes sense in correlation with the main idea of the passage. Now let's look at the second part, Jung's perspective on midlife. Now the keyword here is Jung's perspective on midlife. All of this is the key word as it's the title. One of the key points actually is the fact that they mention the author's name. Now, often in titles, many people like having the author's name within the title as it captivates the audience's attention. They're like, oh my god, Jung wrote this. Who's Jung? Like, they're going to want to read more of Jung's articles, which is why this is a key hint to marking answer choice D. Now let's look at the second part of the title, perspective on midlife. While this whole passage talks about midlife, this paragraph talks about midlife, this paragraph talks about the journey of self-discovery within midlife. Both paragraphs 2 and 3 talk about midlife out of the 4 paragraphs, which is why a key theme in this passage is Jung's perspective on midlife, which is why our best answer for question 6 will be D. That is the end of our discussion for this nonfiction passage written by Carl Jung. Feel free to email me on my email linked here. It is priyaeducationaus@gmail.com. You can email me for any further clarification, any questions, or any reviewing of any creative writing or analytical writing or persuasive writing that you've done, and I'll be more than happy to review it for you. Check out my description for more information and tips. My email will also be linked in my description. Thanks for watching, and feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video. Bye!